So our involvement with Grand Challenges began when we started as a group of researchers at UCL to think about this idea of left behind places. The issue for us was that this was a term which was increasingly being used in the media by politicians. Policymakers were expressing an interest in what we do about these left behind places, and there was a beginnings of an academic debate about this concept as well. And we felt that there were a lot of unanswered questions. Why are we using this term? We're often using it to describe geographical inequalities which are long-standing. We felt that there was a lot of effort going into quantifying, taxonomizing, mapping left behindness. What we thought was really missing in the debate was an in-depth study of a place which was categorized as in some ways being left behind or met some of the attributes of left behindness. But our ideas were only very vaguely formed at that point. We certainly didn't have a hypothesis that we could take to a research council for a grant. So we approached Grand Challenges with the idea that we think there's an important issue here. We'd like somebody just to begin a very open-ended exploration. Grand Challenges, though, asked us to really think hard about what we could achieve in a relatively small project. And I think in that sense, it asked us to connect our interests to these broader challenges confronting society. And I think that was very, very useful. And off the back of that, we have gone on and attracted additional research funding for the work that we've done.
So we wanted to move beyond these kind of simplistic and quite, I think, problematic ways of looking at left behind places that just really use numbers and don't look at specific left behind places and don't look at the specificities of each place. Sacriston has a different history to even other mining villages in County Durham, and we need to recognise that. We need to recognise the things that make a particular place meaningful to the people who live there and have lived there in order to, I think, intervene effectively in those places. In part, I think what we wanted to do was to be quite open-minded about what we might find when we studied Sacriston in this new way, using all of these kind of mixed methods, using historical methods of different sorts, using focus groups, creating connections with people working in Sacriston, in local politics, but also in local third sector organisations of various sorts. So in a way, part of what we ended up doing kind of came from starting off with these methods and kind of seeing what avenues we were pulled down, and social infrastructure kind of emerged from a lot of the different research methods that we were pursuing as really significant. And so that was where we kind of ended up placing a lot of our attention. Making that process much more of an open-ended dialogue enabled us, I think, to come up with more interesting, more innovative findings than we would have done if we'd preconceived the project.
So our project involved people from a number of different disciplines and brought together a number of different skills which would help us achieve our ambition of creating what we called a deep place understanding, right? A multifaceted understanding which is historical, it's geographical, it listens to the voices of the people in the village, it articulates their concerns through these different methods of eliciting information. And the project as well was shaped partly by talking to the people who are in the village about what's important, what do they need more information about. Although one of the things that was said to us from the very beginning, and it is reiterated to us constantly, is that what they want more than anything is for us to tell their story. And I think we brought together a team which was pretty adept at doing that.
So Sacriston is an ex-mining colliery. It was one of the larger collieries in the northeast, and it was really impacted by the pit closures and also the miners' strikes. There's been multi-generational unemployment in the area, and it's still quite high unemployment, it's quite high antisocial behaviour rates, but it's quite mixed now, because there is the old community that's been here for a long time, and still quite a lot of sort of negative issues that exist here. But like side by side with that, there's new housing estates and people moving in who are unaware of the community. So really, it's a complex mosaic now. There's areas of quite high deprivation, alongside reasonably nice areas. So John took a good hard look at what we were trying to do as a grassroots sort of community business, and very kindly said that he's really impressed with our efforts and the change that we were trying to bring around to the community. And I think he really wanted to connect us with some people that were would be interested in these things and helpful to us.
The Grand Challenges component of our work here, was pretty small part. It was a modest amount of resource to do some exploratory work, but that work is mushroomed, and we've drawn in additional research resources. And so we're here kind of in a sense all the time now in Sacriston, and we have, I think, strong and durable partnerships with people in the village, particularly here at the old co-op buildings, where we're involved in a number of the different activities which are going on. What all of that means is that, of course, there are issues about what, in academic terms, we'd refer to as positionality in relation to all of this. But I think what it allows us is to deepen and extend our partnerships and relationships in the village. A key task for us is to think about how can we give back, because I think we get a lot in terms of our research from all of this. And so participating in these organisations is a way of making this a kind of reciprocal relationship rather than the conventional academic relationship where you go in, you get your data and you leave. Without overselling what we're doing here, we're trying to be present over a longer period. And I think that our research definitely benefits from that, and I hope the communities get something out of this as well. And I think all universities have responsibilities to the communities around them. I think UCL has special responsibilities because it's such a large, rich and powerful organisation. It's a repository of value that could be made available to these communities. And so, the questions which I ask in the villages in County Durham are basically, what is it you're trying to achieve? Is there any way we can help? And that's, I think, the question we should all be asking all the time.
So we've kind of, I think, managed to open up a little bit in the minds of policymakers and politicians an idea that we need to move away from this kind of pulling central levers in Whitehall and Westminster approach and just looking at places on the basis of statistics, and actually rethink how central government and even local government interacts with communities, kind of listening more, empowering people who are already on the ground doing really amazing work in their communities to build up new social infrastructure, to kind of revive older social infrastructure, rather than kind of thinking that you can just set central targets. I think government needs to act in a much more kind of people-centred way.
The problems that we come across, they're not insurmountable. One of the most inspiring things that I heard in our Tottenham exchange, and we were talking with some groups who were asking questions about the social problems in the area, and there was Layla from Tottenham, and she said, these questions have been asked for decades. You know the answers. The answer's always been the same. The answers are groups like this. But you keep asking the question because you don't want to provide the answer. We know the kind of support we need, and we know what we're doing. We just can't push past a certain level, and hopefully this will help.